and maybe location, a lot of like what market, what location, maybe timing around when you do your spends and just the overall strategy. And this is really important whether you have an agency or you're doing it yourself or whatever, because you have to communicate this and get clear on this, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. The way it works with most agencies is they'll just ask you, where do you want your ads to be targeted? What do you want your budget to be? Yeah. What kind of schedule do you want on them? And the level at which you understand how to answer those questions can determine the success of the campaign. Because the way that most agencies view it is you give them parameters to work within. Like, I'm willing to buy houses in these areas and at these times, et cetera. And their job is to optimize everything as much as possible within the parameters. One thing that we've been really successful with at Bateman Collective is working with our clients on what those parameters should be.
Coaching them on that.
Yes.
Way, yeah. Because you don't want to be set up to fail. Like, hey, here's what I want, and you're like, well, that ain't gonna work. But okay, it's your money. Like no one wins with that.
Yeah, nobody wins with that. And while I do believe it's fair for there to be a lot of focus on how do you optimize within those parameters, sometimes the easiest way to win a game is to change the game you're playing, right? To one that you're more likely to win.
Yeah.
And I think thinking about it that way is a good way to be successful.
I mean, that's very much how you approach disposition too.
Yeah, 100%. When we have companies that come in that I'm consulting with, like back when I first started InvestShift, I'd sell the software, but then I'd also say, hey, I'm going to consult with you to try to get you to 7 figures a month. And the first thing I'd always do on every company is I'd ask them, which markets are you in? Because a lot of times you can take the exact same monthly investment or marketing, you can take the exact same team, the exact same processes, and just change one thing, change the markets. And just changing that one thing can oftentimes double or triple the profitability of a company. We've done that so many times where a business is stuck at 100 grand a month or whatever, and all we do is just change the markets, and 2-3 months later, they're doing $300,000 to $400,000 a month. So it's really critical. You got to get this down. You got to understand. And people then they always want a list of the markets. Here, what's the list of the markets? That's not the right way to think about it. How do you think about it?
I think there's a few layers to it, right? Yeah. There's 2 models I'm fond of. Okay, let's call it 3 models. Because people have success in different levels and in different ways, right?
It is a changing environment.
It's a changing environment. And for me to just say, like, this works for Robert, so I'm going to do that, doesn't mean it'll work for me. So that's like something I take a lot of pride in is understanding when things fail or succeed, not just if they did, but why they did. Yeah. And then you can deconstruct it and you can understand how to make it even better. So there's a few business models I'm fond of. One thing I'm sure a lot of people listening to this do already is they're just in one market, right? They just do
which I think is a huge mistake.
Their backyard typically, right?
Yeah. And here's to show you how polarizing this is. I heard somebody say just the other day, like every top wholesaler in the United States is basically nationwide. And I've heard someone else just a few weeks earlier say the exact same thing about one market, saying you can't be nationwide. Everybody's got these different opinions.
They're polarizing. Yeah. When people say nationwide, there's this common misconception that people think that you're targeting the entire United States. No. And this is, I think we were partly responsible for this. Like when me and Nick and some of these guys started doing really big numbers, we would call ourselves nationwide wholesalers. When we said nationwide, we're typically in 6 to 12 markets spread out across the nation. We didn't mean that we were, just in every single city across America. Like we were very strategic about which handful of cities we're in.
The point is flexible. Like you don't say this is my backyard, so I do business there. You say where is the best place for me to do business? Yeah. That's where I'm going to do it, which is a different strategy. So I'll be clear because I know people on both sides of this. I know people with $3 to $4 million a month real estate businesses that are in a single market, and I know people who have done similar things on a national scale. I think there's 2 ways to grow a business. Number 1 is one marketing channel, many markets. That's kind of what you advocate for because that's what you have personal experience with and has worked well for you. Yeah. Do Google ads, be in a lot of markets, or you could be in a lot of marketing channels in one market.
Agreed.
Just 2 different ways to attack it. And some companies will get into many marketing channels in many markets, but that's tougher. It's tougher, and it's not something that you need to figure out to get to the revenue numbers that most people are trying to get to. It's something that you have to figure out to get far beyond that.
How do you make that choice? I mean, is that just a preference? A lot of people just like their backyard. They understand it. They know it. They can comp really easy. You know what I mean? Like they know that side of the street's better than that side of the street. They got boots on the ground. Like there's all the leverage of a backyard market. Now it limits you in some ways for like scalability, but it tends, I mean, one thing certain is that real estate is territorial. It is market specific.
Yeah.
Right? Like this market's different than that market and that market's different. And for the most part, a team, maybe not for wholesale real estate, but for the most part, you set up some kind of like team in a local area. And then if you go over here, it's a different team for that area. So what's the pros and cons of that? I mean, this is a question, this is a debate, or not a debate, but a conversation that Rob and I have all the time. I have it a lot with people. Like, do you go virtual or do you stick to what you know and trust?
And it's also beyond just one market versus multiple markets. The other thing is like, are we doing appointments or not doing appointments?
Are we phone or appointment?
Are we
that's the other part of it.
Face-to-face sales? Some people just want to do that. Like I had a conversation with a guy that raised $60 million for his house buying company. And I'm like, which markets are you in? He just listed a couple. And I'm like, why aren't you in more markets? This is insanity. He's like, well, we're just really good at belly-to-belly sales.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
like,
I mean,
okay, that's fine. So some people really love that.
It's different models. Yeah.
Other people are like, hey, you know what I love more? I love the flexibility of being able to spin in and out of markets. If one market sucks, I want to be able to pop into another one, replace them, cycle them in and out. But you got to realize then you're a phone sales company. You're not a belly-to-belly sales company.
Yeah, or you're a really complicated belly-to-belly sales company.
Some guys have tried that.
And
that
you know
doesn't work out very well.
Yeah, and what I kind of generally understand is it's fair to expect that you could have some advantages being belly-to-belly.
Yeah.
You might be able to close slightly better. Exit strategies, you probably have more available.
Yeah.
So I get that. But if you're virtual, especially with channels like PPC, you can bring your lead costs significantly lower. And that can compensate for some of those other challenges that you could run into. The one model I don't like is virtual in one market. I don't know why anybody does that. If you're going to be virtual anyways, you might as well have the flexibility of being in multiple markets. But our clients kind of fall into two categories. There's the person who pays like a high cost per lead. They have a lot of other marketing channels. So PPC is just one thing on top of that. They're really good at closing leads in their local market. Like if they don't, I know you know Cody Hoffine well. Great example of someone like this. If on his team, if you were to call in, you're a PPC lead, and if you don't answer the phone when they call you, they would literally knock on your door to try to lock up your property.
They're an
because they can do
company.
that.
Yeah,
because they're an appointment company, right?
They're very it's territories.
Yes,
a lot of my Joe Homebuyer partners, all of them, they're in their territory, and the model is to go on appointment, and they believe strongly, and I get it, like. If I can build a relationship with you eyeball to eyeball, I'm going to get a higher chance of getting that deal than someone trying to close on the phone.
Yeah.
I guess if you can get there soon enough.
Fair enough. Yeah. And I think a lot of companies also have like both options available, so you can lock it up on the phone or in person. But I guess Cody's game is like awesome exit strategies, a lot of variety of options there. Belly-to-belly sales, close a really high percentage of your leads. You pay a high cost per lead, but you get really good at monetizing them really well. And then you have to stack a bunch of marketing channels together to get the revenue that you want. Versus more the channel that...
I'm McDonald's. I'm doing one thing really simply because I just want to take over everything.
But a lot of people, they would say like focus is one market, not one marketing channel or one exit strategy. Whereas you would argue that like be diversified on market, focused on strategy.
On one channel. The reason being is I think this game is all about building competitive advantage. And if you spread yourself across too many marketing channels, you only have every time you spend $1 on marketing, you're gaining two things. Number one, you're gaining a return on investment, hopefully. But number two, you're also gaining data and information that will then help you spend smarter the next time. So if you're spreading that, so every time you're running tests on any marketing channel, you're getting a little bit better on that marketing channel. But I would rather like put that all on one and just build a competitive advantage on that one way faster, way stronger. And I also like to, like I said, I know like the dollar per hour down to the dollar of each of my sales guys, what they sell per hour, like everything is so dialed in. And if they fall below their like median threshold dollar per hour of what they sell,